Hi guys, and welcome back to the channel. I'm Dharma Helper, and this is DH Reviews. This is my Season 1, Episode 3 review of Gotham. If you want to check out my other reviews of Gotham, there will be a link in the description of this video, as well as an annotation right here by the Joker. You click either of those, and they will take you right to those that playlist, and you can watch all of my videos about Gotham. Season 1, Episode 3 was called Balloonman, and it followed, the main story was a vigilante called the Balloonman who had been killing these prominent, corrupt figures in Gotham City by attaching them to weather balloons and setting them up into the sky. And the first person that he does this to is a Ponzi schemer and a man who had been scheming all these people out of their money. And the case basically falls to Jim and to Harvey to solve this case. And Harvey initially doesn't want to do it. He thinks that the guy that was scheming all this money deserved what he got, and he really doesn't care so much about the Balloon Man. But over the course of the investigation, Jim is really hounding Harvey about, did you follow up on this lead? Did you do this? Did you do this? Did you do this? And he really gets on Harvey's back about, following up on all these leads and solving the case. And in his mind, murder is murder, and he's really into solving the case right off the bat. And Harvey really gets into the case when the second victim shows up, and the second victim is Bill Cranston, who works with the Gotham Police Department. And Bill is, I believe, a police sergeant. And he has a fight with the Balloon Man. And in that scene, he sort of grabs some stuff out of the Balloon Man's pockets before he's sent up into the sky by the balloon. And with that, Harvey really gets behind solving the case, and he really kicks it into gear. And again, we see that approach that he has to police work versus the approach that Jim has to police work. And their investigation leads them to a guy who worked at a factory or a warehouse that had these weather balloons. And the owner says that, 4 balloons were stolen. So we have obviously the first victim, the second victim, and then 2 more victims at this point. And then they find this guy, and he talks about, yeah, I stole all these balloons, but I sold them. And Harvey is very keen on solving the case quickly and pinning all this stuff on this guy, because he had all these priors, and he's a real jerk, and all this different stuff. And but Jim, again, he continues to dig and dig and dig, and try to figure out the truth behind the case, and he's not really interested in solving it until all the evidence is out there on the table. And they have an interrogation and conversation with this guy, where he basically says, the 4 balloons, and you guys realize that these balloons are going to expand and pop, and eventually these bodies are going to hit back on Earth. And so, obviously, the first body that hits back on Earth is the body of Bill Cranston. And when they find Bill's body, they find all this information and these forms that he took out of the Balloon Man's pocket. And the forms are, I think, not adoption forms, but forms for the adoption agency and for the orphanage and all this stuff to work on Selena Kyle's transfer. And so from that, Jim is able to realize that the person he gave these forms to for the transfer of Selena Kyle and all this stuff was Lamond, the child services worker from the previous episode that had been working with these kids. And they track him down to the abandoned orphanage or group home where he's got the last balloon, because the third victim was a priest who had been molesting kids, and so he's only got 1 balloon left. And so they approach him, and they have a fight, and Harvey attaches Lamond to the balloon, and he basically sends him up and doesn't really care and says, what, that's what you get, go ahead and enjoy that. That's your, punishment is you get to die the way that you were killing all these other people. And Jim jumps on, and he grabs the balloon, and he grabs Lamond, and he basically forces Harvey to shoot the balloon, and save Jim and save Lamont, and they arrest him. And Lamont and Jim have this conversation where Lamont says, none of these people that I killed, the priest, the cop, the Ponzi scheming guy, none of them were going to see justice. None of them were going to see the inside of a jail cell. The whole city's corrupt. Everybody's corrupt. The only way to fight it was to literally fight it. And to see that dawn on Gordon, where, like I said in my predictions video, he's very naive at the start, and then he starts to realize here that Gotham City is way, way, way worse than he anticipated it would be, and the sickness is more severe than he thought, and it's way more corrupt than he thought. And to see that was pretty cool, and I'm interested to see what his approach is going to be moving forward, because obviously this approach that he has to fighting the corruption is not going to work. And to see where he goes moving forward here is going to be pretty cool and interesting. So that pretty much covers the story of this episode. I thought having a vigilante, episode was pretty cool on their part. It showed a little bit, of what is important about Batman in terms of the fact that he doesn't kill people and he only does things a certain way. And it showed that, and I thought that was cool and a very nice touch in terms of an origin story. Let's talk about the characters of the episode. We saw Jim Gordon and Harvey butt heads again in this episode, but they stood up for each other. When Jim has that confrontation with the MCU, Harvey stands up for him and says, you know what, they don't have anything. I've got your back. We've got your back. Don't worry about it. They don't have anything. We're gonna beat them. We're gonna beat this. And I thought that was cool. And Ben McKenzie and Donald Logue play off each other really well. And that relationship, where they butt heads, but at the end of the day they're partners, is going to be nice to see and nice to watch develop over the course of the season. Ben and Selina Kyle have a relationship and a partnership almost in this episode as well. And like I talked about in my prediction video for Gotham, to see that parallel of the Batman Jim Gordon relationship and then the Selina Kyle Jim Gordon relationship was pretty cool and pretty interesting. And the relationship that Selina Kyle and Jim Gordon have is a little bit lighter and a little bit more antagonistic than the relationship that we're familiar with Jim Gordon and with Batman. But to see that grow and to see where that heads is going to be cool, because I don't think they're going to be, at each other's throats throughout the series. I think eventually they're going to work together a little bit better, and we're going to see, like I said, Jim's approach to fighting the corruption shift, and how Selina plays into that is going to be pretty cool to watch. Talking about Gordon again, Barbara and Montoya have another scene in this episode where they talk about their past, and it's revealed that they had a problem with drugs and a problem with their relationship with Montoya lying to Barbara, and that's pretty much where their friction and their separation came into play. And Montoya again is hammering at Barbara and saying, you know what, I lied to you in the past, but I'm not lying to you now. And you knew when I was lying to you in the past. And when I'm telling you that Jim Gordon is not a good person, and Jim Gordon killed this guy, I'm not lying. And actually, if you think about it, she's not, technically. In her mind, Jim killed the guy, and Jim's a bad person. But at the same time, Barbara talks to Jim, and Jim doesn't lie to her, but he doesn't tell her the full truth. He says, do you think I would do that? And in actuality, he wouldn't do it, but he's not telling her the full truth. And again, like I said in my last review, to see the lies and the secrets build up between Barbara and Jim is going to be interesting, and it's going to be a pretty key point in their first season here. And to see what Jim does when he finds out about Barbara and what Barbara does when she finds out about Jim is going to be interesting and entertaining. Let's talk about Fish Mooney and Carmine Falcone. they have this confrontation this episode where Fish had sent somebody to go beat up Carmine's girlfriend, and he comes up and he says, do you know who might have done this? And she lies and denies it, and basically they go back and forth, and Carmine says, whoever did it, we're going to find out, we're going to give them what they deserve, and we're going to do that to whoever helped them. So, again, like I talked about in my last review, I don't think Carmine buys what Fish is selling. I think he's too smart for that. He's too smart for her. And I think he's catching on to what she's playing at. And I think he's allowing her to think that she's in control and in charge. But in reality, he's just waiting for that moment for her to slip up. And they talk about Maroney in this episode, who they talked about previously in the last episode. But they talk about him more in depth in this episode, and they intimate that Maroney might have been responsible for it. And, Carmine says, maybe Maroney did it. And Fish says nothing to dispute that. And then we see in this episode, Maroney is introduced, and he's a little bit more vicious of a mobster than Carmine is. And he's almost like an Al Capone Scarface type guy, where he seems to me to be a little bit more bloodthirsty and psychopathic and more of a mobster in that sense of the word. And so to see those three butt heads over the course of this first season, I think is going to be great, and it's going to be cool to watch that and to see how that shakes out and who ends up being on top. Personally, my money is on Carmine. I think he's going to be, he's smart enough to beat Fish. He's ruthless enough maybe to beat Maroney. I think if anybody's going to stand on top, it's going to be him. But wherever that shakes up, whatever happens, I'm going to be interested to watch that. Talking about Maroney, let's talk about the Penguin here, who comes back to Gotham City, and he gets a job at Maroney's kitchen, and he at the end of the episode he talks to Jim Gordon. So again, we're starting to see the Penguin's plan come together here. That mosaic that he had in the previous episode. Nothing I think that the Penguin is doing here, that Oswald is doing, is on accident. I think everything he's doing is setting himself up to take advantage of that eventual war that's coming to Gotham City that he keeps talking about. He's going to be at the perfect position to pick up all the pieces that Maroney and Carmine and Fish are going to leave of each other when they eventually implode and go after each other. And in terms of Gordon and Penguin, I think, because we saw Oswald be a snitch for the MCU, so that he might offer that to Jim, and again, Jim is going to need that if his approach to fighting this corruption is going to shift. So he's going to gather his allies, and they're going to work together in that regard, and maybe the Penguin uses his connections to kind of give Jim a bit of a boost and give him a reputation as a good cop, help him go up against Carmine and Fish and Maroney. But whatever, what Penguin wants out of Gordon in exchange for that, I think is going to be the key factor here. Again, nothing he does is on accident. He's doing all this stuff on purpose. So obviously he's coming after Gordon for a reason. And what that reason is, I don't know, and I'm interested to find out. Wrapping up my thoughts on characters here, I want to talk very briefly about Bruce and Alfred. In this episode, it felt like 2 steps forward, 1 step back for Alfred. We start off, we see him sword fighting with Bruce, and then we see him sort of lose that connection that they had when they were sword fighting. We see him, Bruce is again not eating. Bruce is looking into that Wayne murder. Bruce is looking into all these things, and Alfred's not sure how to deal with that. And Bruce is developing, again, the detective skills and the fortitude and all this stuff, and the fighting skills with the canes, sword fighting, that he needs to be Batman. But I would like to see him develop the skills that he would need to be Bruce Wayne. When I say that, what I mean is, we know Batman is Batman and all this different stuff, and he's got the detective skills and the fighting skills and the sneaking around and all this stuff. But a big part of Bruce Wayne's character is he's able to put on that face and fool people into thinking that he's the billionaire philanthropist playboy Bruce Wayne, when in reality he's actually Batman. And Bruce, as a kid so far, is not able to do that. Alfred is actually seeing all these things unfold in Bruce's mind, and he's concerned for Bruce. So to see Bruce actually able to fool Alfred, maybe, or to fool Jim into thinking that he's okay and that he's moving forward and that he's actually being a kid, I think has to happen. We need to see that other side of Bruce's character. We should see him maybe get out of the mansion a little bit, interact with Poison Ivy, interact with, like I said, Selena Kyle. But again, the main thing that I want to see moving forward from Bruce is we've seen skills he develops to become Batman. Now I want to see the skills he develops to become Bruce Wayne, philanthropist, a playboy type, that face of his character. We need to see him do good in the city. We need to see him, like I said, put on that face and pretend to be okay. That wraps up the characters that I want to talk about. My overall thoughts on the episode, I thought the episode was great. Again, we're seeing a lot of world building over these first 3 episodes, and I want to see some resolution start to happen with the Barbara Montoya stuff, with the Arkham Asylum stuff. We saw more Arkham Asylum stuff in this episode. We're seeing Arkham Asylum was somehow connected to the Waynes. It's connected to the mob. It's connected to all this different stuff. And so to see that resolve, I think, is going to be important. We need to see more of the mob war stuff resolve and that come to a head and how that shakes out. Again, just all these different stuff that they're adding and they're building up and the world building, just resolve some of that, and I think that'll be great if the series continues to pick up the pace here. I want to give a shout out to and props to Robin Taylor, Oswald Cobblepot. His character in particular, I think, has really captured that comic book style, and it's really clear that he's in love with the character and in love with what he's doing, and that really shows and translates on screen. And that character of Oswald Cobblepot is really a shining star in the series, and particularly in these last few episodes. A shout out to Donald Logue and his Harvey Bullock and the humor that he's able to bring into a series like Gotham, which has been a little bit serious, child kidnappings, all these vigilante murders and stuff. But we've also got that humor that Harvey is able to bring when he gives his one-liners and stuff like that. So I thought that was really great, and I'm really looking forward to more of that. Just in terms of everything else, again, really great episode. I want to see more of this story develop. We didn't see anything out of Poison Ivy for these last 2 episodes. We saw her very briefly in the first episode in the pilot. I want to see where she goes and what she does and how she fits in the series, because I think leaving her out for too long, people are going to forget about her, and it's going to do a disservice to the character. And Poison Ivy is a really interesting and a really cool character, and exploring that, I think, is going to be crucial to the show. My biggest criticism, again, is that they might be adding a little bit too many characters. And we're starting to see that strain because we didn't see the Riddler in this episode at all. And we haven't seen Poison Ivy, like I said. So finding the right balance is between adding new characters and highlighting characters is going to be interesting. And I hope they figure that out. For the second episode, I thought they did really well. But for this episode, again, we didn't see anything out of Edward. We didn't see anything out of Poison Ivy. And they went ahead and they added Maroni to the mix. So finding that balance and striking that balance is going to be pretty interesting and pretty important moving forward. With that said, that'll wrap up my thoughts here on the episode. I thought it was a great episode. I'm really actually so pumped to be reviewing the series. It's a great series so far. I hope you guys are enjoying it. If you like the review, go ahead and leave a like on the video so that I know I'm headed the right direction. Leave a comment. We can talk about the episodes. We can talk about, what I might have talked about or what I might have missed. We can talk about the Joker, because again, I didn't quite catch the Joker nod in this episode. But if you caught it, go ahead and leave a comment. We can talk about that. If you want to watch my reviews, again, every Tuesday I do Gotham reviews. Every Wednesday I do Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. reviews. Every Thursday I do Scorpion reviews. You can subscribe to the channel, and you will see those reviews as they come out. Follow me on Twitter at the DH Reviews, and I talk about Gotham, I talk about Scorpion, I talk about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and we can talk about it together, and we can interact on a more informal level, and we can interact a little bit on Twitter. Share these videos on Facebook, on Twitter, on Tumblr, wherever you got to share these videos. Get these videos out so that I can continue to build the channel. I'm really thankful for you guys for watching and for your continued support. So thank you guys again for watching and for supporting the videos. And with that said, that'll do it for this review. So I will see you guys. Gotham, again, if you want to watch Gotham, that's Mondays at 8 p.m. on Fox. And that'll do it for this review. So again, thanks for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video.